Hello and welcome to another episode of Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. And Into the Afroverse is where we're taking Black folks into the future. Today's guest is like the embodiment of a lot of what we talk about on this show. We talk about taking Black folks into the future, using technology, and also economics. Today's guest is Cerece Rennie Murphy. Cerece Rennie Murphy is the national best-selling and award-winning author of 10 novels, children's books, and short stories. She is also the founder of Virtuous Con, an online science fiction and comic book convention that celebrates the excellence of BIPOC creators, speculative fiction across mediums of fiction, comics, film, and visual arts. In 2010, Cerece experienced her own supernatural event, a vision of her first original science fiction story. Shortly after, she began developing and writing what would become the best-selling Order of the Seers trilogy. Through her children's and adult books, she explores the essential themes of individual identity and personal power and how these discoveries can be used to improve our community and our world, all while weaving character-driven, action-packed stories. And with that, we'd like to welcome Cerece Rennie Murphy. How you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you, William?
Doing well, doing well. Once again, thank you for joining me on this show. Really excited to have you here and have folks hear what you're working on, because I've been watching and I'm familiar with Virtuous Con, and I wanted to bring it to the masses for those that may not be familiar with it. But before we start talking about the convention in particular, can you give us a little bit more about your background and what brought you to this space?
Oh, man. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's truly an honor. I guess it started with the love of sci-fi. I'm from DC originally, and my mother took me to see Empire Strikes Back at the Uptown Theater in DC when I was a child. And I fell in love then. I was just blown away by the possibilities, the new worlds, even the challenge of thinking about spirituality in a new way.
Right.
And I've just been a fan ever since. It's my favorite genre because some people like to read nonfiction, and I think nonfiction is great. But what I love about fiction in general and speculative fiction specifically is that it gets right to the heart of sort of the essential questions of humanity. What it means to be human, what it means to be in community with other people. What is our purpose here? And what are we doing with that knowledge? And science fiction is all about, and fantasy is all about that. So that's kind of where I started. As you mentioned in my bio, before 2010, I never thought of myself as a writer. I've been an avid reader since I was a child, but never thought that I had the attention span to write anything longer than 5 pages. I wrote poetry since I was 11, all of that, but never thought of myself as a writer. And it took a while, even after writing Order of the Seers, to really say I'm a writer. But it's just been a genre that is full of hope and deep spiritual questions that has just inspired me my whole life. And it's also a place where you got to see people of color
Right.
in expansive ways. Now, I'm from DC, so the idea of Black people being in power and doing amazing things, it's literally something I grew up with. So, it wasn't that it was unusual for me, quite the opposite. It was a reinforcement of what I knew to be true about Black people.
Gotcha. Now, let me ask you this, because a lot of the people that we've had on the show, when they talk about creating these stories, creating these worlds, and including Black characters, we always talk about how as a young person, we didn't necessarily see ourselves in this. But my question is, why do you think that is so threatening to other people to see Black faces in these, science fiction universities, comic book universities, universes, not universities. But what is it you think? Why are so many people so afraid? Why do you think so many people push back against this idea of Black folks in these futuristic settings?
I think it's because they're afraid of us in the present. So, I mean,
Interesting.
it's like we're this problem that just won't go away. Even
Right.
in speculative fiction, even in the future, we still gonna be here.
Right.
So if you're having a problem today, you're probably gonna have a problem tomorrow. But my
Gotcha.
mom always says people expect you to do what they would do.
Right.
And given the history of Black people in the West, not Black people in the world, Black
Right.
people in the West, it's been the beginnings of that are horrific.
Right.
And so the idea that the descendants of people who survived in that would be angry and just
Yes.
sort of waiting, in the shadows to take revenge
Right.
maybe that's how other people would do.
Yes.
Maybe that's how they would respond. The thing is, we have never been about that. There was
Right.
plenty of opportunity, to take revenge where we could.
Right.
I mean, and some surely did. We're human beings.
Mm-hmm.
But that's never been the focus of our community.
Right.
Black people that I know, and I would venture to say the Black community, we don't wake up thinking about the awfulness of white people.
Not
Like,
at all.
that's not a focus of our day, of our lives at all.
Right.
We are busy. We are busy
Right.
building our communities, raising our kids, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. We are busy. And
Right.
it's the reason, and it's because we keep our focus on building that we are not fixated on what's happened to us. We're fixated on what we can create despite what has
Right.
happened to us. And I think if you've never had to do that, as Black people in the West have had to do for centuries, you don't really get it.
Right.
And I think that's why they can't believe, people who have problems seeing Black people in the future, they can't believe that we're really not just gonna sort of focus on them. We're focused on us.
Yeah, because
So,
I remember when Barack Obama was first elected, you had some white folk that were literally afraid that somehow or another he was going to reinstitute slavery.
oh my
you know,
gosh.
and it's like I think a lot when to your point, when we're talking about white supremacy and racism, I think a lot of it is projecting.
Yes.
They know what they would do. So they're like,
Right.
these folks got to be willing to do this. They got to be ready to do this as well. And often say, given all that has happened to us and continues to happen to us, if we ain't done nothing by now.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that any
Right.
slave master's child survived
Right.
should tell you something,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
I mean, because as our children were being sold, and then you have to go play wet nurse to the child of
Right.
the person who just sold your child, there was
Right.
plenty of opportunity for revenge.
Exactly. Exactly.
But that's not, ours is a story of triumph.
Mm-hmm.
The narrative about Black people is that we are the descendants of the enslaved,
Mm-hmm.
of the tortured, of the victim. And that's not true.
Right.
We are the descendants of the triumphant. We are the descendants of the people who had faith in utter darkness. We are the descendants of people who not just survived, thrived, created a culture, a language, invented things.
Right.
In a system that threatened to kill them if they did it. And the reason this is not speculation, this is not my opinion. If you've been to the Museum of African American History, or if you read, anyone else who wasn't fast enough, smart enough, quick enough, strong enough, died.
Right.
We are if you are breathing as a Black person today, you are your ancestors' wildest dream come true.
Right.
And that happened again because we focused on building. Building. It is the way we have survived. It's the way we moved within 2 generations from the majority of us being in poverty to the majority of us not being in poverty.
Right.
The whole idea that Black people don't value education is like is like a failure to understand basic economic mobility.
Right.
I mean, we're the only people who died to read. We died.
Right. Literally.
For the chance to read.
Yes. Yes.
So the whole idea, so when you look at that trajectory and you understand it, you understand that we can do anything.
Well said.
And that might be threatening to some people,
right.
But there's nothing we can do about that.
Exactly. We
if you're gonna be in your feelings about it,
we're just being who we are.
but we continue to rise despite everything. And it's because of this focus on building and not on revenge or, being mad about what happened. We are constantly focused on building because we know that that is our lifeblood. And when we focus on that, we are unstoppable. And the evidence of that is everywhere.
Well said. And I really hope that folks were paying attention. And I really feel like that's going to resonate with a lot of people because I love the way you articulated that. Now, before we get back into the conversation with our guest today, I want to talk about one of this episode's sponsors. Here at Into the Afroverse, we often talk about the various mediums of art and storytelling and how they can be used for positive social change, especially for Black people worldwide. Well, in the city of Philadelphia, known for its arts and culture, a fantastic organization called Mural Arts Philadelphia believes that art ignites change. Because of their work, Philly has become the mural capital of the world. You should travel there to check it out. Listen to this message from Mural Arts.
For over 35 years, Mural Arts Philadelphia has focused on using art not just to beautify, but as a means to provide creative solutions to address Philadelphia's most challenging issues. From giving a second chance to justice-impacted individuals, to welcoming immigrants and refugees with open arms, to amplifying the voices and ideas of the next generation. Mural Arts continues to inspire and empower. We believe in the transformative power of creativity. Art is more than just paint on a wall. Art ignites change.
If you're just joining us, this is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. And today we are joined by Cerece Rennie Murphy, author and organizer of Virtuous Con. So you were talking about, Black folk continuing to build and create despite what's going on. I want to talk about your creation, Virtuous Con. Can you tell us a little bit about that and give us some insight into what brought this about and what it's about?
Thank you for asking that, because it really does build on everything we've talked about, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
2020 was a very difficult year. I have 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl. And as I'm watching the protests, I'm watching the murders of my unarmed brothers and sisters, I felt despair creep up into me in a way it never had before. I mean, the murder of Trayvon Martin changed my life.
Right.
So it's not that I was unaware, of
right.
us being murdered for no reason by law enforcement. Just to see it sort of all come together in like a couple months, between Taylor, Georgia, it was just a lot. And we were in the middle of the pandemic or at the start of the pandemic. And I'm home with my kids and I'm wondering what to tell them about this situation. I'm fearful. And I'm so angry because I realize this country, I'm doing my best with their dad to raise these good people who can go
Right.
out into the world and make a difference, and feeling like my country doesn't want them, like doesn't want to see them.
Right.
And I thought, what can I do? Because I can't despair. I'm alive and have breath, and I brought them into this world. So now, I just got to get busy. But I was feeling the despair. And I thought, what can I do? What can I do? And I prayed. I asked God, I asked our ancestors for help, for guidance. Because hope is an essential element of life.
Right.
And as a parent, you feed that into your children. You feed that into everyone you interact with or not, depending
right.
on
right.
And then the consequences, roll out from that. So I remember, and as I was praying, I remembered this building. I thought, how do I deal with this? How do I survive this? What do I tell them? And I heard build. That is how we have always survived and thrived. We build.
Right.
And I knew that there was an alternative narrative to the mad, bad, sad stories that people just love to tell
right.
about Black
right.
people in our existence. And I knew that in the independent sci-fi community, those stories were abundant, but very hard to find. And I thought, how can I make people aware of the hope, the narratives of hope and possibility that are out there about us? Mm-hmm. Not just for people who see us and are afraid.
Right.
I mean, they certainly need an education too. But most importantly, for us to continue to remind ourselves, to give ourselves the fuel to hope, move forward, and build. And I've been an incredible recipient of this amazing community of independent speculative fiction creators, Black speculative fiction creators. It's an incredibly generous space.
Yes,
Not
it
just
is.
in the Black community, but in independent creators in general. It's like really, really generous. And that's actually what the name of Virtuous Con refers to. It refers to this virtuous circle of artists helping artists, fans helping artists, and artists helping fans, supporting each other, inspiring each other, encouraging each other. And so the idea of a Virtuous Con really comes from that. I had a dream actually to start all my stories, and like most of my stuff comes from dreams.
Okay.
And I remember waking up, I remember the day that God was like, you need to start an online sci-fi convention. And I'm not like a tech savvy person.
Right.
I was just like, I don't even update my phone. What are you talking about?
Right.
And God was just like, just go do it. Like,
right.
You didn't know how to do anything else you do now before you start to learn how to do it. So just go ahead. And as soon as I stepped into it, just people came to help me. People came to encourage me, to teach me, in all these amazing ways. And it's just been this incredible journey now that is far beyond anything that I imagined for it.
Wow. That is incredible. So if I wanted to participate, if I want to be a vendor, how can I reach you? How can I find you?
You can go to virtuouscon.com. Panel submissions just got extended through, I think, next Tuesday. Yeah, so it's coming up. So if you got a panel idea, please submit it. We'd love to hear from you. Vendors, we are about to sign booths and everything. So click that link to be a vendor, submit your application. We're approving them daily. And if you just want to buy a ticket and come and enjoy it, you can also just go to VirtuousCon, the link to buy tickets there. And yeah, we'd just be so excited to have you. We have an amazing lineup of people. And we're going to be discussing everything from deep fakes and what it means to live in a society where reality history has always been told, right?
Right.
But it's literally being recreated in frightening accuracy, but complete fiction right before your eyes. And what does that mean for us? We're going to be talking about the new AI technology with art. And what does that mean for artists? We're going to have attorneys talking about that. It's not just people and what they think, but like actual people who know. We're going to be talking about the legacy of queer characters in comics. We're going to be talking about the importance and function of myth and folklore and fantasy in African American culture and why it's important to bring that forward in our speculative fiction. We're going to be talking to Black businesses and talking about the explosion of entrepreneurship in our community that is literally changing the reality, the economic reality for Black people in this country. So our theme is creating our reality, and we are really taking that and expanding it. It's just really exciting, and I'm so grateful for all the people who have agreed to join us.
No, that is excellent. And one more time, the website.
It's virtuouscon.com.
Excellent. So this is the second one that you're having?
No, this is actually our fourth event and our third VirtuousCon Black History Month.
Excellent. And in terms of the growth, what have you seen in terms of, folks reacting to it, the number of folks attending? How has this thing blossomed?
It's been just such a blessing because, the first VirtuousCon Black History Month was in February of 2021.
Okay.
And, we were all sort of in Zoom land, and people really thought, okay, well, this is another one of those. And it really isn't. We have a virtual space where you can go and meet vendors face to face.
Wow.
And they have a virtual whiteboard which is like their booth. And you can click on it while you're talking to them, while they're explaining their products, their books, their comics, and buy directly from them. And then double click on another table and visit another vendor and see that person and talk to that person. So it's really interactive, and you can even talk with the attendees. So it's really like a great virtual community space.
That's great. And like I said, in addition to just supporting you and what you do, because I have seen the work that you've been doing, I like the way that this embodies what Afrofuturism is all about. Yeah. Bringing the past and the present together, use of technology, bringing the community together, this recognition of spirituality that you alluded to, all these things combined. I think that this is like the perfect vehicle to really illustrate what we can do as a community when we do come together. And as you mentioned, I found this myself, the Black creative community is just amazing in the way that they're able to work together, support one another. And I really enjoy what I'm seeing. And I can only imagine that this community has really been backing you and been behind what you're trying to accomplish.
It is so humbling because we did our beta launch in October of 2020, after having the idea on March 23rd of 2020. So it was just 3 hours. It was a 1 hour panel and 2 hours of the vendor floor. And I was just inviting friends that I knew, like, hey, will you help me test out this virtual environment and this, that, and the other? And the response was just beautiful. People just gave their time. They gave their feedback. They had fun. And each year we come together and we do that. This past summer, we launched a writing series, our first summer writing workshop series. And again, talents like Tananarive Due and Stephen Barnes, Beverly Jenkins, came to El Penelope, came together to teach what they knew. And this is 2 hours of their time. These folks are busy, but they were like, we want to support the next generation of Black and Brown creators. And we understand that we need to give back to do that. And they're giving back in a million ways. But they also chose to participate in the summer writing workshop series. It was just amazing and so humbling.
That's great. Believe it or not, this time has moved so quickly. And it's such a just great conversation. One of the things that I like to challenge my guests with is this question. How do you see, or what do you see for the future of Black folk in this country, if not the world? And what role do you see yourself playing and bringing it to fruition?
Black people in this country, African Americans, will continue to build, grow, expand, and be excellent. That is our legacy. It is our tradition. But we're going to be able to do that with more power, more economic power, more personal power, to understand what is happening to us and how we respond to it deeply, consciously, and with more assets and resources than we've ever had before to do it.
Got you.
So I am incredibly honored to be a part of this community. My goal, and I feel like my path, is to continue to lift up positive narratives and make sure that there is a road for producing, cultivating our stories in any way that we want to, that is ours to own, ours to control. That's my passion, and that's ultimately what the contribution I'd like to make.
Well, you're already doing it, so I can only wish you continued success because it's already happening. We didn't talk about the actual date of the con, so when is it happening?
It is happening the end of February, the last weekend, February 25th and 26th, from 11 to 7 p.m. Our panels start from 11 and go to 6, and our vendor room, where all our amazing independent creators, opens at noon, East Coast time, and ends at 7. So you have a little time to see a panel and then go right into the vendor room and meet all these amazing people. And then, because one of the things our attendees constantly tell us is, there's so much going on. Like, I want to be in a panel and I want to be in the vendor room. And it's like, but so what we did was we started the panels a little earlier, but so we could end it early and get that last good hour where you're just hanging out with all these amazing vendors. So excellent. 11 to 7 p.m. East Coast time.
Awesome. Okay, so you heard it, folks. Virtuous Con. Go to the website, get a ticket if you got something to sell, become a vendor. And like I said, I would really, just really encourage folks to be part of this great movement that you have happening. So one more time, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us on Into the Afroverse. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been wonderful talking to you, William. Thank you so much.
Excellent. So that'll about do it for us, folks. This is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones, here on WOL 1450, 95.9 FM, where information is power. And you can find this episode on the Afrofuturism Network page on YouTube. So I encourage your friends to tune in, listen, and hear great guests like the one we had today. And also special shout out to Mr. Duke Productions for producing today's episode. Thank you once again for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good day.